Macy here, back with another video. Today I'm going to be doing like a get ready with me while I talk about Singles Inferno season 3. As you can see, we're going to start with my hair because what is she doing? I don't know. I need to wash my hair, but we'll figure that out sometime this week. So to begin, I want to first talk about the cast, and I'm going to talk about kind of like the show in itself. I feel like in terms of like watching all 3 seasons, this season was the most wild and the most stressful. But anyway, I think we should start with the cast, right? So I feel like obviously in terms of cast, we can start with Giri. I'm gonna have really butchered pronunciation throughout the whole thing, but I feel like in the first episode she did come off really cold and mean, right? And then when she got stuck in Inferno, like no one chose her. That was kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. But essentially when she got stuck in Inferno with Minku, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it properly. But when they got stuck together on the island after he chose her and she chose someone else, I found it really interesting how she started changing her, like not changing her personality, but becoming more outgoing in a way, right? She went from like this super I don't talk to anyone kind of personality to making jokes and like getting really open. And I really appreciated seeing her kind of become a little bit more personable, right? And then chaos ensued. And by chaos, I mean the ending of the season when she essentially insulted Minwoo.
안 돼.
Huh?
안 돼.
This is gonna happen throughout the whole show. But essentially when she embarrassed him by like being like, you're like Guanyi, I'm like, excuse me, no he's not, they are not compatible in the same type of way. I get it that she was hurt, right? I get that she was hurt that he chose someone else. Like, she also was like so confident that like he would choose her, but like I don't know how she was so confident that he would choose her, but in that moment, it really brought us back to like what her personality was like in the first episode. And I was like, this is why no one chose you in the first episode, because you seem as someone who's very judgmental and cold, and throughout the show, you're very open and you're kind. And then when things don't go your way, you become not the greatest person. And then even the statement of which where she told Minwoo like, oh, I told you not to talk to any other girls. It felt very much like I own you and I chose you as the person I want to be with, so you therefore have to do what I say, which I strongly disagreed with, because he was very uncomfortable on their date and he was very much like open to talking to her, and then you can see after their date he developed like emotions towards her, but that doesn't mean she gets to still be able to choose between multiple guys, whereas he has to choose only her. Like I did not like it. She is really pretty though. I will say she's really pretty. I just didn't like the way that she handled the situation. It felt very off-putting, and it felt kind of like a horrible way of ending her character throughout the show, right? Because I feel like people grew to really like her, and then she does that on like the second to last episode, and everyone was like, excuse me, gross. And then there's even the part where like in the end where she chooses that she wants to be with Minhyuk. And I feel like she didn't choose him because she really liked him. I feel like she chose him because she didn't want to walk away alone. Because when she was talking to the girls, they're like, well, Minhyuk really likes you. And she was like, I'm not going to choose someone just for the sake of to have someone. And I'm like, but that's technically what you did, right? Because when he came back, you were like, oh, like he's so sweet, he's so dependable. And I'm like, he was dependable the whole show. And you chose that you didn't want him. And now, because you don't want to seem like alone and sad at the end, you just chose him. But like, you didn't want to be with him, you wanted to be with Minwoo, and it's fine, you know. And I feel like sometimes you don't get who you want, but I feel like at least own that and stop pretending that you would be okay with walking away from the show alone when you clearly would not be. Okay, the next person I wanted to talk about is Hyosyeon. This is gonna be horrible. Their pictures are gonna pop up as I talk about them, obviously, but I loved her. She was very direct. She was very true to herself. I feel like throughout the whole show, she's the only one, well, not the only one. She was one of the members of the show where I'm like, I know who you want. I know like your thoughts and your opinions, and I appreciate it. She's very bubbly, but I feel like she's also very like mature. And I think one important thing I noted in like her throughout the show is she never wavered in what she thought. She was really straightforward, but she was also adaptable to different people's personalities, right? Like she didn't want to be rude or step on people's toes. And I think throughout the show it made her seem like the most likable and the most personable without being like overbearing, which some people were, but we'll get there. But essentially, she is like probably the most sane person, I would say, in terms of like the first episode cast. And so I really appreciated kind of her level-headedness throughout everything, and she didn't like overdo things. I think that she was really competitive, but I kind of love that for her because we needed one girl that was competitive in terms of like the challenges, and that was her. Slay. But I do, like many women in this show, why do you all like Gwon-hee? I don't get it. I don't get it, because there's a point, right, where we're in like the last episode, second to last episode, and he's still like, I don't know who I want to be with. And she's like, okay, then don't pick me. If you don't know, don't pick me. And then he was like, no. I mean when she said that, I didn't word it right. And then she like apologized, and I was like, why are you apologizing? He clearly knows, but he's and actually, maybe he doesn't know. I'm fair. Maybe he doesn't know, but I feel like there comes a point where you just got to be like, you know what? I'm a grown woman and I don't want to be with a child. But apparently all the women wanted to be with a child. Well, 4 of the women wanted. 3 of the women wanted to be with a child, or whatever. So essentially, I liked everything about her. Didn't really like that she chose Gwon-hee, but whatever. Every woman has their own taste, and that was her taste. Also, look at how the lengths of my hair vary in the front, right? Because, like, to be fair, I did take a lot more out of here than I did of here. Should I redo it? I should redo it. But essentially, that was like my only thing about her that I was like, about, because I'm like, girl, he has basically insulted most of the women on the show, but you still really like him. And you know what? You chose her in the end. So I guess it works. I guess it worked. Her confidence worked. But no, I don't think there's much to say about her in terms of like her as a person, just because I feel like, again, she was one of the most straightforward, and it was very easy to follow like her journey, which I appreciate. The only like question mark was why everyone was saying Woonwick or whoever, Woonhee. How for some reason everyone kept saying that she was gonna choose him, and even I was like, when did we get this impression that she would have chose not Gwon-hee? There was no point. Even the date with Woonhee, I feel like this name is wrong, but I'll fix it when I get to him, obviously. But I feel like even their date, right? Even their date felt off. Like it was uncomfortable. Like no talking, no laughing. It felt so forced, and so I don't know why people kept trying to push them together. And even I feel like Woonhee and Hyunso, they both were like, when did we put the impression that we were like endgame? Because like everyone was like, they're endgame, and I'm like, no, they're not. Like as an audience, everyone watching was like, are we not seeing things that they're showing, like that they're doing on the island for people to be so sure? And like the example like one of the guys gave, I think it was Henbin, who was like, oh, like the way that she kept looking at him, like, and I'm like, you mean when he was cooking with Gwon-hee? Like, what do you mean she was looking at him? Because there was no point in terms where I was like, oh yeah, she's definitely between 2 people. It was always one person, and we all know who that one person was as an audience. So, questionable. Next is Minwoo. I loved him. He was really sweet. I feel like he was, again, another person that I think had a straightforward, like, story, right? At first he wanted Gyuri, but then she was not the greatest towards him in the beginning in terms of he was really shy, so she didn't really give him the time of day. And so I feel like when he realized, oh, she's not really interested in me, and he started like finding interest in Seehyun. I love Seehyun. She's really pretty and she's really sweet. I really appreciated kind of seeing him come out of his shell more. I was really upset that every time they would talk, there would be an announcement for a challenge, or like the time to like say who's going to paradise, or like they never got like one-on-one time until literally like, I think 2 days before the show ended. And he was like, oh my god, like the universe was not with you. It was not with you. The universe did not want you, and I feel so sorry for you, sir. But essentially, I think throughout the whole show he was really sweet. He is the one that's about my age because I am 24. Oh my gosh, I am 24. I always forget. I was born 1999, so technically I'm older than him, but barely. But maybe that's why I also relate to him, because honestly, being trapped on an island with like extroverts, I'd be tired. But essentially, his arc is pretty straightforward. Like, he was true to himself. He chose the girl that he really liked, which was, of course, Sihyun, which obviously we all saw coming. Except Yuri. I don't know how she thought that he was not interested in any other woman, because I was like, it's very clear he's into Sihyun more than he's into you, first. And then second, it's very clear that, like, you think that he's a man that's very easy to control because you had no concerns until another woman pointed out, hey, you do know he's interested in this person. And she was like, no, like, this other person is interested in, of course, Winky. I don't know why he kept getting brought up. I was like, he's just here. This man is literally just existing, and somehow he has been brought into like love triangles, and he's like, I like Sihyun, but Sihyun obviously doesn't like him. But she was like, Sihyun likes him. And I'm like, just because they talked a lot, she didn't instigate the talks with him. He instigated the talks with her. He was like always pulling her for chats before anyone else could, then holding her for chats for like hours. And then like whenever she got time to chat with the guy she's actually interested in, Minwoo, like there wasn't a chat. It stressed me out. It really stressed me out. But anyhow, yeah, Minwoo, not much to say. Very straightforward kind of guy. I feel like he knew what he wanted. He got the girl he wanted, and I hope they're still together because they're low-key the only couple that left that I have faith in. Because like, let's be realistic. How many of these couples do you think are gonna actually last? Maybe one, maybe two. More than two, you're dreaming. You're in a magic world. This is not properly done, but I just wanted to get my hair to look decent. But up next is Jinseok. I loved him. He was my favorite of the male participants. He was funny, but he was serious, and I really enjoyed, like, he was very dedicated to Minyoung throughout the whole, like, first half of the show until she was like, I want to get to know other people. And he's like, I'm going to respect that. You can get to know other people, and I'm going to get to know other people too. And it just so happened that the very next day, Minji showed up, and he was really open to that opportunity. And in being open to that opportunity, I feel like he found a potential second match. And Minyoung immediately was like very territorial. And I'm like, you can't tell him, I didn't choose you, you feel more like a brother to me vibes, you know, like, she didn't say the brother part, but she did say it to other people. But you can't say these things, and then the moment another woman, girl, whatever you prefer to say, the moment another person showed interest in him, you immediately were like, no, I like him. And like, you were so upset because it was like you lost that person. And yes, you guys got back together in the end. This is not parted well at all. It's really gonna bother me. Also, I'm not going out today. I'm literally just staying home, so it's fine because it's at home here. But I didn't really like that. It felt very manipulative in a sense of like, oh, I'm crying. Oh, I really actually do like you, even though I told you that I wanted to get to know other people. But the moment you get to know someone else, I don't like that. And also doesn't get to know other people. As soon as another woman showed interest in him, she abandoned that get to know other people plan immediately. And then she just kept pursuing him throughout the whole show. And honestly, it worked for her because he chose her in the end. But also, I feel like he says he'd be the guy who'd be like, oh, I'm not interested in you. But then someone would come up to him and be like, I like you. And he'd be like, I don't like them, but I would feel bad. So then he would pretend to like them, just like go on a few days with them and then break up with them. Like, it feels like he'd be that guy, like the guy that like, he wants to be really nice. He doesn't want to hurt your feelings, kind of, which is not, it doesn't make it better. It doesn't, but I feel like that's the kind of guy he is. So I feel like in the end, he couldn't say no to her, right? But overall, really funny, very sweet. I love the race episode where he's like, I got a bad knee, and he just starts walking. Because honestly, once you saw that you were sixth and how far away you were from other people, you should just walk. Because like, you're not, at that point, it's a matter of like, you're competing for your pride to not be last, to be like second to last. So it's like, and if you weren't so self-assured in yourself, he would probably keep running. But he was like, there's no way I'm not going to be last. I'm gonna walk and choose the comfortable way. I'm gonna speed walk, but I'm gonna walk. And I love it. I also like that he called out like the flirting that that one of the girls kept doing with her chin, like to Gwenhee, because it was funny, because honestly I was like, girly, stop. But I really liked him. I think he was really good. He was comedic, but he was really sweet, and he was also serious, and he kind of encompassed a lot of different aspects of like a fully matured person. But yeah, he was like he was my favorite male participant throughout the whole show. Up next we have Minyoung. I feel like I talked about Minyoung when I talked about him, but Minyoung, I really wanted her to be that girl for me. Like, I really wanted to support her and her decisions, but I feel like we got off track. She really got off track, because she went from like this date with him, right, with Jun-suk, and I was like, okay, they're vibing, it's very cute, I think this will work. And then the next day she's like, he felt like my brother, and I'm like, first and foremost, I have cousins who are brother and sister. They would not piggyback ride the way this man piggyback ride with you. That sounded so bad, but you know what I mean. Like, I get the, oh, we're playful brother sister vibe, and I'm like, that's not, most brother and sister duos that I know they don't act like that. And maybe, you know, we're from different parts of the world and different ethnicities, different everything, so like potentially there are siblings like that. I don't doubt there are siblings who play like that, but like, no. I even asked like some of my friends, and they were like, no, right? So like, there's also that. I have like friends who are very close with their siblings, and they don't act like that. So it was interesting. I felt bad for her, because I understood like the feeling of, well, like, it feels like he claimed me, so it feels like no one else would want to be with me, because it's very clear that Jin-seok likes me. And I'm like, yes, but just because of that, you also have not put forth effort in just going up to the guys yourself, right? Because yes, you could say none of the guys approached me, but did you try approaching any of the guys? Or were you just very comfortable in this relationship until you realized you weren't as desired by other men, and that's why you wanted the opportunity to be desired by other men? But then because Jin-seok got attention from another woman, you were like, I don't like that, let me just go and get my man back, which is like fair, I guess. If you really liked him and like that was the moment that you realized you really like him, that's fine. But I do think there is a little bit of a double standard with her, and it bothered me, because it was like, he was very straightforward, and he said you can talk to other people, and he was just following your lead and talking to someone else and develop feelings. But he did not expect to go on this date with Minji and like develop feelings for her. And like, honestly, it was probably refreshing, because of the way you spoke to him in terms of ending or pausing or whatever, opening up that relationship, right? Because so I really wanted to like Minyoung, but I feel like there are certain parts of the show that really bothered me, and so I think that like she needs a little bit of a wake-up call, and I think Minji was that wake-up call. Do I think that she handled post Minji really well? No. It felt very much like jealous ex-girlfriend being like, oh, how was your date with this other girl? Do you, like, are you and this other girl doing great? As the other girl is sitting next to you at the table. Shady, uncomfortable, uncalled for, okay? And then it's just like, she never really understood when other female participants were like, well, you need to show him that you can. She's like, oh my gosh, but that's so much work. He was putting in that work for you before without anyone having to tell him to put in that work. And so if you felt so like put off by putting in that work at first, then it just showed that like you just wanted him to come back to you easily. And I'm happy that he didn't. I'm happy that you had to actually work for his trust back, because you did really hurt his feelings. It was not the best way of telling him you want to talk to other people, and especially in front of other people, because you could have just taken a drink. She just really stressed me out. But yes, that's kind of my overview thoughts of Minyoung. Okay, Lee Guan-hee. This man is what every frat bro that graduated college becomes. Truly, He reminds me of my cousin who's a basketball player. Everything about this man reminds me of him. The indecisiveness. I'll be fair. My cousin is more decisive than this man, but my cousin has had like times where there's been like multiple women that he likes, and he's like, oh, well, this one's this one's this, and I'm just like, choose the one you like the most. What advice do I give you? I don't know. But anyway, I feel like Gwon he maybe he truly did not know who he wanted throughout the show until the second to last episode, right? And I think that's fine. I do not like his always wanting validation from women, because it was very much like he wanted all these women to validate him, but he would not validate them, right? He would validate one, and then immediately talking to the next woman, he would tell her, some would validate her. And then when the women would talk, it was like, why? Like, I think he likes me more, but then he's basically telling the other girl like almost the exact same thing. And I'm like, I don't get it. I think because he's 36. That's what gets me. Because I can't be like, you're young, right? Because you're 36. And so I was kind of like annoyed, because it felt as though I knew he wasn't doing it on purpose. Like, you can tell he wasn't doing it on purpose. Like, this man very much does not know what he wants, right? And even in the final episode when he chooses Hyunsian. I'm gonna mess that up forever. But essentially when he chose her, he even said, I chose her because if I chose Minji, I would think about her a lot. But if I chose Hyunseon, I wouldn't think about Minji as much as I would think about Hyunseon. And I said, that means that you still don't know who you want. Like, that means that you chose her because you're like, I guess I think about this one more and I care about her more in this moment, so she's the one I'm going to choose. But how is that going to work in the real world? Because I think one of the judges, like the commentators, brought it up very well when he was like, it's kind of like clubbing, right? You would avoid clubbing if you know it would bring bad things. And so I wonder how conducive he is going to be in a relationship where, like, if he goes out without her and he meets a woman who's his ideal type, does he just chat her up and then he goes, I don't know, like, she validated me, she approached me, she blah blah blah, because it feels like he always needs validation. And I think at some point Hyunseon is going to get tired of validating him, and every woman in this show except 2 people who he did not choose stop validating him, because Hyunseon at some point, and like the last episode, was like, you know what, I'm gonna stop, and didn't play his games anymore. And apparently her not playing his games helped him realize just how much she affected him, and for him to choose her. But I really didn't appreciate the way that he conducted himself. And I think that they try, like, the the commentators are like very much upset with him and rooting for him at the same time. And I totally get it, right? Because to some regard, I agree. I feel bad, but I do think that he needs a wake-up call. And I don't think this is it. Maybe post-show, when I've been seeing people reacting, well, commentating on it. I have to watch the commentaries after this. But people who were very much upset with his way of acting throughout the whole show. And I agree. My friend was so mad at the show, particularly this season, because she felt this season it felt very much like people just being there to be influencers. And I do slightly disagree. I do think you can tell that not everyone was there to be influencers, because like, one, he's already a basketball player, one of them's a model, one of them's like an actor, like they all have jobs in terms more so in spotlight, but this just increases their job opportunities. But so I do think they aren't here for like social media. Besides Gary, I think she is here for social media. He just really stresses me out. He really bothers me, and I feel bad that he bothers me to some regard, because I know he's not doing this intentionally. Like, he's not being like this intentionally. He is just a man that's also a child. And I know we should accept that, but I can't. Because I'm like, sir, stop leading on these women. And so, yeah, so that's kind of like how I feel about Won-hee. But you know what? I guess without him, we wouldn't have such an entertaining season, which is really the only thing that the show probably was happy about, is that they had someone like Won Hee to like boost people watching the show and being upset with someone. But up next, we're gonna talk about 1 week. I'm not trying to say this. He hurt me because he was so persistent with Sihyun first and foremost. But then Sihyun, I always say Sihyun, but he was first and foremost very persistent with her to the point where like you could tell she was uncomfortable. She did not like him. She did not want to be with him, but he just kept going and going and going. And I was like, she clearly is uncomfortable and does not like you in the same way. And even like the comments of like, oh, I hope that like Minwoo's not there when we get back and things like that. And I was like, sir, it feels that you're not secure in yourself. And I think you did everything you could, but at a certain point you just needed to accept that she did not like you in the same way that she liked Minwoo. But it's fine, because you know what? I think that if he hadn't gone for her, he would not have been able to realize, like, not realize, but he would have probably had some like unresolved like post-show, like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But I do think at a certain point, stop being so aggressive about it, because it's clear that she chose someone else, but you just kept like blocking their interactions, and you were like I felt so bad for her, because like what do you do in that situation? Because you can't ignore him. You know he's clearly approaching you, and like there comes the whole issue of like, it's a show, right? And so she outwardly just can't be rude to you. Like, she can't be like, leave me alone, I don't like you, blah, 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 blah. But I think she says it in very polite ways of like, hey, like, you know, I feel like you're always sweeping me away and I don't get to talk to Minwoo, and so like I feel like my timing, his timing is always off. And he was like, well, I'm happy that it is, or something like that. And I was like, gross, don't like that. So he just really, I feel like, bothered me in the sense of like he was so focused on being with Sihyun that he didn't talk to anyone else. The only other woman he talked to, I believe, was Hyunsian, and like it was like a really awkward date, and then he just completely focused in on Sihyun. And like I'm like, there were still a few other women that you could have spoken to, but you chose not to. And in a way, maybe that wouldn't have changed anything, right? Maybe it would not have changed your perception of all the women overall. Like maybe you still would have been like, I still think that Sihyun is the girl for me, and that's fine. But I feel it was really annoying to like, I think the things that he would say, like I think some women would really like a guy like that who's like, oh, it's only you, I really like you. Like I think some girls really like that. But I think the way he did it, it felt a little bit off-putting, and you can tell that she was uncomfortable by it. And it's fine that she's uncomfortable by it, because honestly the audience is probably uncomfortable by it too. But yes, I feel like other than that, we didn't really get to see his personality besides him making Sihyun uncomfortable and having a really awkward date with Hyunsian. But you know, it is life. Okay, Hanbin. I think Hanbin was basically like one of those background people from Love is Blind. You know what I mean, right? When they're in the pods and then there's like, hey, I know the lighting's bad, but I just wanted to come in one part really quickly because it's bugging me still. But everyone who's saying that Hanbin is just awkward and things like that, I feel like the reason he was so closed off and didn't really speak to Hyojung is particularly because I feel like she was showing so much more interest in Gwanhee even though she was with him, that I feel like Hanbin was probably like, what's the point of even trying to like show interest in you if you clearly already have your mind made up for someone else. And I just wanted to say that because like people are speculating, you know, like I do think he was here for his career. Let's get that straight. I do think he was there for his career. I do think that he wasn't really into any of the women, but I do think it's important to know that he probably also, even if he had interest in Hyojung, he probably was like, she doesn't like me anyway. What's the point of pouring my heart out and telling her all these things about myself if she's just gonna choose someone else? Okay, we'll go back now. There's like clearly people that they're like, oh, these people are important to the show, and then there's the people in the background that you see the main cast talking to throughout the show, but you know they won't end up being important. That's Hanbin. I think Hanbin is a very beautiful man. I think that he's not great at speaking to women, because the one chance he gets to go to paradise with Hajang, he ruins it by being like, I don't have any questions because I feel so comfortable with you that it answers all my questions. What does that mean? What does that mean? She was like, what? Because you literally said, I don't want to ask you all these personal questions while we're on Inferno. I want to ask you when we're in paradise. And was that a way for you to just go to paradise without like you know what I mean? Like, was that just a way for you to go to paradise when you had no connection with someone, to like kind of pull someone along being like that? And then in the end of the show, he still chooses her, but I'm like, but there was no moments of connection besides like when she said that she wanted to get to know one other person, and that was you. But when you find out that she had done it in revenge to like Guan-hee, then you're like, And I'm like, I feel like for me it would have made more sense if he was like, after hearing that she only chose me because she wanted to like not spite Guan-hee, but like, you know, not really show like Guan-hee like, oh, you're the only one for me, kind of like playing hard to get, then it would have made more sense in terms of him not talking, right? Because he was like, oh, clearly she's going to like someone else, so I'm not going to try. But it was not that, which is what I don't get, because I'm like, you showed no interest, you showed nothing towards her or any of the other women, and that was really upsetting, because I really hoped that he would have found someone, but he couldn't. Like, his effort wasn't even, I don't want to say good enough, but his effort was very much minimum effort. And so you can't expect a woman to be like, oh my gosh, I like him because he said he liked me, but he won't ask me anything about myself, he won't have a conversation with me, he'll just sit there and stare at me and like say he's tired and say he's like a sleepy drunk. Sir, that's not conducive to a relationship. Other than that, very cute. That's all I got for him. I'm sorry. Okay, the makeup is fine. I think this is fine. But I think this one contour line really did a thing. So it's like, but anyway, I just feel really bad because I think Hanbin could have been really good if he had opened up more, and maybe he and Hajang could have had a chance if he was able to open up to her and talk to her, and even him talking to some of the other women would have been helpful. But it seemed more like a vacation for him, more so than him being on the show to find love. Okay, Hajang, first episode did not like her. I did not like the whole introduction the show did with her and Siyun being like, oh my gosh, with Hajang being like, Siyun is my older sister's friend, and then them fighting over Minhyuk on their island. It was very like uncomfortable, and I was like, I don't like her energy. The chin thing, it was so funny because every judge every commentator on the panel talked about it, and then even it was so blatant that even Jun Seok was like, you always do this when you want to talk to someone, and he was like, I didn't know if you were doing that because you were scared of me or because you were flirting with me. And I think that's hilarious, right? Because I don't know if any of the other guys picked up on it until Jun Seok said anything, but I do enjoy that she was very direct, she was very straightforward, and she was true to her emotions throughout the whole show. She was not as wishy-washy as the man that she wanted to be with. And she really did try giving chances to other people, right? Like, she went first with Minhyuk, and then she went with Guan-hee, and then she went with Hanbin at the end. And I think that you could see that she was still open to trying, but she was very much set in Guan-hee. And I think that even though she was set with him, she was like, I'm gonna give Hanbin a chance, and then Hanbin just ruined it. Like, he didn't give anything, he didn't do anything with the opportunity to develop any emotional like connection with her. And I think basically she grew on me from like watching her, because in the beginning I was worried that she would just be there to be like a mean girl and like kind of stir up things, but it was really apparent that she really just wanted Guan-hee the whole time, and he was just because it was interesting. Like, she was like very open with her feelings, and she's quiet when she's like with one person, but she's more talkative and like excitable when she's in a group. And like when he didn't like that about her because he was like, if you, I don't know who the real you is. And she's like, well, the real me is I'm more active and social in a social environment, but when it's me and my partner, I don't feel the need to be like, oh wow. And I'm like, honestly, that makes a lot of sense, because you know how tiring it would be to just consistently be on for your partner. Like, I totally understand her. I totally get it. I think that it made me appreciate her, because I was really worried that she would kind of have like a one plane arc and not really have like this depth to her. And I think even watching how even like the judges, right, they were like, oh, every time she made it apparent how much she liked Won Hee, and him being like, I don't know, like you were so distant and blah blah blah. And I was like, it was very apparent that she really liked you. She never made effort to anyone else in the way that she did towards you, but you but essentially, Hajang, I really liked her. I really liked how she conducted herself. I think the first 2 episodes of her, grating on my patience, grating on me. Like, I did not want to watch the show because of her. And like, but I think watching her more, I really appreciated her as a person. Up next is Minkyo. Minkyo. He is basically Minwoo but talks more, I think. Like, that's like my best way of explaining both of them, because I feel like Minkyo and Minwoo are like the same person. Like, personality wise, they're very similar. Athletic build, facial, like everything about them is super similar. They're not super different. I think the only thing that might make Minkyo like a little bit more appealing to other women is maybe his age and his profession. And well, I wouldn't even say just because of his profession, but I think it's the way he conducts himself. I think Minkyo makes women feel more secure around him, because he is more able than Minwoo to have a conversation. He's a little bit more outgoing in that regard, and I think that really helps him. And you can tell, like, even how he got attention on the first island, and then towards like when he got onto the second island, he got attention again. And I think it really showed that he is more appealing in a way, because he's more outspoken, has more confidence. You know, it really helps him to stand out more. So yeah, I think that he was again one of the people who knew what he wanted from the beginning. It was very apparent once he met Yuri. I think they went to Paradise together. I think he knew, like, this is the girl that I want to get to know, and I don't really want to know anyone else at this point. And he really stuck with her. You can tell that he kept trying with her, even though she was just here, there, everywhere throughout the show. And then for some reason really focusing on Minwoo for like the last 3 episodes, and then still chose him. Again, I said she chose him because he was the only guy that approached her. If Minwoo approached her, she would have said Minwoo. I said it. But anyway, that's really what I think of Minkyo, because like I don't know any other way that he would have had a better outlook, right? Because I think that if Minwoo had chosen Guri, he would have not been chosen by her, because I think she likes a man that she can control. And I think that she thought Minwoo was more like that because he was younger, because he was more quiet. But just because you're quiet does not mean you're susceptible to being owned. Whereas I feel like Minkyo, he is more susceptible to that. He is more willing for her to take the lead in that relationship because he really likes her, and he is very much like a puppy dog around her. But yeah, he and Minwoo, I feel like, are very much the same type of person, just like with slight tweaks and not super different. And maybe that's the way the show portrayed them. Like, the show didn't really let them have more individuality, and it was harder to see like maybe why she was like why they were different, because they very much felt like the same type of personality to me throughout the show. Up next is Siyeon. When she came on, everyone was like, oh my gosh, she looks so much like Jennie, and low-key she really does. One of my friends said she looks like she wants to look like Wonyoung from IVE, and honestly, she looks like if you took Wonyoung from IVE, Jennie from Blackpink, and you merge them, that's what you get with like Siyeon. Like, that's like what her visuals give, because on the side profile it's very Jennie, but like forward facing, and like her hair is very Wonyoung, so I find it really interesting. But I do understand there's whole like the whole focus on like visuals in Korea, so I do understand like her wants of looking more like an idol, especially like idols that people are like, this is a visual. And I can imagine like her growing up, people like not growing up, but her like recently as like Jennie and Wonyoung gained popularity, people like, oh my gosh, you look so much like so and so. Her being like, okay, make similar makeup, like I can see that like thought process. I do think her introduction again with Hajung, I really didn't like it. It felt really uncomfortable when they first introduced those two girls, particularly because of the whole like previous relationship, both liking the same guy. I did not really enjoy that. I think where we got to see her personality come out more was when she met Minwoo, and like they developed this friendship that blossomed into like a really cute like want of a relationship. I think that I really appreciated seeing that kind of growth and arc within her, because I think once that happened, she became more likable. She also got less screen time when that happened, because again, I think you need to be problematic or be really wanted by other contestants to be on the screen as much. But I appreciated her, I really do. I think that I would say she might be one of my favorite of the girls, because I think that after like the awkwardness of the first 2 episodes with her, then we actually got to see a little bit better of her as a person, so I really enjoyed her. I think this is the last person, Minji. I really liked Minji in the first episode that she came on. She's the last person to arrive. She arrives halfway through the show, and I really liked her when she was meeting all the other guys. Oh, that's a Michael Kors dress. Michael Kors makes clothes. Anyway, so I really liked her in her introduction, right? I liked the way that she carried herself, and I think that her conversations, particularly with Jinsuk, made a lot of sense in terms of like, oh, this makes sense. I can also see why she chose, did she choose Minwoo for a date? I think it was Minwoo, not Min. This is what I mean about Minhyuk and Minwoo. I feel like they look the same. But she chose Minwoo, I think, right? And she chose Jinsuk. And I think for Jinsuk it made a lot of sense, because you can tell that they banter, they fit really well, they converse super well. And then like I get the whole Minwoo, like you make her feel comfortable, and also like she probably just wanted to get to know like 2 different types. And then she comes back and she's also interested in Gwon Hee, and I was like, no, not again. But of course, why would it not happen? And so essentially, somehow in her being interested, I wonder if it was also like she got more interested in Gwon Hee because of the whole issue with Min Young being so like abrasive towards Jinseok. Like it made it uncomfortable to get to know Jinseok, because like Min Young was always there. Min Young was always commentating. Even there are times where I was like, girlie, stop commentating. You don't need to commentate on this. You don't need to make it so awkward for her, but you are. And so I think that I liked her in the beginning, but then I got a little annoyed with her like halfway through her being on the show, particularly in terms of like, you can tell she just wanted to be like that girl, right? Because when she and Gwon Hee went to the hotel together, it really felt overbearing. The laughing and the touching and the pajamas. It felt very much like she was there for more so the internet fame. And while I do think she developed a relationship, an emotional one, obviously, with Gwon Hee, I do wonder like how much she truly liked him and how much of it was for show. Because I think most of these women have never been rejected in their lives. Let's just bring that out for, right? I can totally see a bunch of women having never been rejected in their whole life, coming on a show, being like, oh, it's gonna be so easy for me to get the guy I want, but then not remembering that they're on a show with other really beautiful women who have also never been rejected, and then they get rejected for the first time in their life, and then, as Minji does, you cry. And you cry a lot. You cry on Minhyuk's shirt. Poor Minhyuk. He was truly just there for the experience. And it was so interesting, right? Because I think that maybe she really liked Gwon Hee, or maybe she liked to know that, like, oh, I could get this guy because, like, I know me. and I know I can get him. Like, I don't even have to worry about it, because it really felt like she was so confident, even up to the last moment when he chose Hyunseon, and she was like, I had no clue that he was not going to choose me. And low-key, did this man give you any security? He gave none of you security. He gave no one closure besides Hajung, because Hajung was very much like, I like you, and him being like, okay, I have to tell her because she's very adamant, right? But like, I don't know how Minji thought that she was gonna be his one and only. So I feel like she was just really confident, and she was really like, I've never been rejected, so obviously he's gonna choose me. But you were also maybe a little overbearing in that instance for him, where maybe that's a reason that he would have chose Hyunseon, because she had a limit, you know? Like, she had her limit. She was like, you know what, at this point, I've been with you since the very beginning of the show, and if you can't see that I like you, then I don't know what else you want me to do, and I'm just going to stop. And I think for him, that was a wake-up call, whereas Minji just cried, and he was like, he felt bad, but I think feeling bad does not equate to wanting to be with someone. Right? Like, I could cry all I want, and my mother could be like, and Moise, you, what is that gonna do? At some point, it's not gonna do anything. And I think that partially it is Gwon-hee's fault, but I also do think that she was very overconfident and thinking that she could like win him over, so much so that she immediately stopped talking to Jin Seok and acting like his arc with her never happened, and then being so upset when like she doesn't get what she wants. And I feel bad, because I really wanted to like her, because I felt like she was a breath of fresh air. She brought a new perspective to the contestants, and then she proceeded to choose probably the one guy that everyone's like, if you pick him, there's a 25% chance, because he liked 4 women coming into the show, and she was still so confident that she would be chosen. And to be fair, Hyunseon was also very confident, because she was like, none of the other women compared to me, you know what, love her. But it was that moment I was like, ooh, girl, don't say that on TV, because that will follow you. But I do feel like Minji just was a little too overconfident, but I really liked her in the beginning. I really liked her in the beginning. I wish that she would have just kept that kind of personality throughout the show, rather than, I think maybe that's just how she is. Like, once she chooses a guy that she likes, like, that's just kind of like, he's the one, this is who I'm going to be with kind of vibes, and that's fine. I think a little bit of self-awareness would have been better. But during the show, I think my thoughts on the show were, I didn't like the splitting of the islands, because it provided more stress than it did entertainment. Because in splitting the island, it was like, when are they gonna meet? How are they gonna meet? Because that doesn't make sense in terms of like the show, right? The show structure, because it was like, episode 1, island 1. Episode 2, we rush through the second island, so you don't really get to bond with the second island as much as you get to bond with the first island, immediately making you not really enjoy the second island people as much as my feelings were towards the first girls in the second island. And then the swap I found interesting, because I think it really did help in terms of opening certain people up to drama, aka Gwon-hee. I think it would have been more interesting if Minji was in the beginning, because Minji coming back with just Jin Seok there, I think would have been interesting while Gwon-hee was away, because then you would have been able to see if if like Jin Seok developed more of a relationship then with Minji, and maybe that would have been a game changer. But that's just me being like, ooh, TV drama, right? And so I think that's one of the other things that I find interesting. I think that in the show, besides the whole like splitting the episode in 2, which it wasn't really for me, I question how often they went to Paradise this season, because in the first season they didn't go to Paradise as often, whereas this season they went to Paradise every day, or at least every other day, and I feel like that didn't help with building bonds with people on the island. This cast wasn't able to get as close because they had significantly less time to get to know each other. They had significantly less time to have any sort of bonding amongst everyone, hence the whole like Minwoo and Sihyun and Gyuri like drama, because obviously how would Gyuri know when she's gone to paradise almost every single day, and then like it didn't help. I do think that the island was more extreme this time, and maybe it being more extreme this time made for them going to Inferno more often, just because it was not as suitable. But to that argument, Hanbin didn't go until the very last day, so you know I hesitate with that idea. So I do kind of feel that they also went to the paradise too often. It really bothered me. I was like, please, one day, just one day on the island, one day of normalcy would have been great to see, but we didn't get to see that. No, we didn't. Why would we? I think the number of contestants was fine. I think, you know, it allowed like even numbers for even attempts. I do feel like the contestants didn't even try. I think they all were like, I want this one person, and then I was set, and they were just, and to some degree, definitive like focus is great. To another degree, Guani, really? I will never get the Guanhee hype from all these women. Never get it. I'll never get it. He really stressed me out, guys. He really stressed me out. As for the panel, I still think the panel is a really funny thing that they do on the show. I do think the panel works when they include previous season contestants. I think next year they're gonna have Hajung be one of the panelists, because Hajung makes the most sense as one of the panelists. Guanhee would just piss people off. Hajung, I feel like, had a great arc. People liked her at the end, and I think Hajung might be the next like guest, you could say, post singles Inferno person, and I really hope for that, because I think that she would be a really good choice, not only for entertainment but also for like critical perspectives throughout the show, because I feel like she is someone who sees things more like clearly, and I think we just need to level out the testosterone. Okay, so yeah, that's another thing that they did this season that I actually did enjoy. I'm not gonna lie, because I've said two things I don't like, so that's one thing I did like. And then I think another thing about the show this season that I appreciated was just like the way they infused television, like, how do we say it? It's not Western television, because Western television competition show, reality shows, wild, actually unhinged, but they infused a little bit more TV personality than the first season, because there was like that critique where it did feel very PG. It felt very much like give us flavor in a way. So I do think that they did that pretty well this season, because it kept people watching and kept people stressed. I can't say it kept me watching, because I really struggled to watch this season as compared to other seasons, particularly because of this cast, right? I think that you can see the trending of like, oh, I want to be a celebrity. I also think my friend, she said, I always say my friends because I always talk about whatever I'm watching with my friends, but my friend, she said that it felt very much like some of the women were very much wanting to be like a One Young wannabe vibe. And I, again, do you? If this is what you would like to look like, if this is what you would like to be, that's fine with me, because everyone has what they want in life. I don't think most of these women came into the show wanting to be that, but I do think casting probably casted women that had appeal to a Korean standard. I do think that the men were more more mixed bag than previous seasons, which I appreciated, whereas like I do feel like most of the women were pretty much same. I feel like they need a Minyoung every season, so like Minyoung makes sense. Hyeseon, I loved the short hair. She like stood out for wonderful reasons, and I loved her. But essentially, I really do feel like I liked this season because there was more going on. As much as it stressed me out, as much as it made me want to not keep watching at certain points, they did pretty good. They did pretty good with casting. Pretty good. But overall, this is probably one of my least favorite seasons. It probably is because of my blood pressure that it just with Guan Hee, because I was at the point where I was with, I think it was I'm not really sure. I only know like one of the panelists because he's a member of Super Junior, and I loved Super Junior when I was like 13. We're back again. Other side note, I think of all the couples that are still together, I really don't think most of the couples are together. The only couple I can still see being together is probably Xian and Minwoo. Everyone else, definitely not. I don't see that. And if there's any couples that are still together, I would be shocked. But also, some couples do like 1 to 2 years together, like Love Island couples before they break up, and like Love is Blind couples, they do 1 to 2 years together and then they break up. But I don't know what the quota is for Singles Inferno. So, yeah. But I really appreciated like the women's perspectives, especially in terms of Guan Hee, because you could see that they wanted to support and help him, but there were points where it's like, I can't. You literally, I can't with this man, and I couldn't either. But yeah, so that's basically my thoughts on the actual cast, and that's my thoughts on the show. If you want to watch Singles Inferno, you can. I low-key convinced my boss at work that he should watch it because I was explaining to him like the whole like the Inferno of like sleeping on the mats. But I think it's also a cultural thing, right? Because like in Asia, don't they have like it starts with a T, I don't want to say it wrong, but they have like mattresses that are on the floor typically and things like that in some cultural homes. So I do understand that it's not like a oh, we're making you suffer. It is also a cultural difference. But I was just explaining to him like the whole like setup of like, oh yeah, they're Inferno, so like they have to cook by themselves and they don't usually get protein. It's like vegetables and fruits, and like my boss is like, that sounds horrible. And so now he's gonna watch it. So I guess it does have its appeal to make people want to watch it. But it was not my favorite of the seasons. I think particularly just because of how much it stressed me out. I think that the casting was done really well, but it stressed me out. I don't love the splitting up of the island in introduction because it did really shorten the introduction to the 4 other cast members at the beginning of the show. 5. Yes, I'm gonna say 5 other cast members on the other island, because it was like very shortened, like, oh yeah, this is who they are, cool, bye. It felt very rushed, whereas the first cast, I feel like you got to know them more and you rooted for them more. Let me know your thoughts on Singles Inferno season 3. I'm gonna go watch a whole bunch of YouTubers talk about Singles Inferno 3. I'm so sorry this episode is so late and that it's an hour long. Hopefully I can cut myself throughout like doing my hair and makeup and things like that during this commentary thing. What should I watch next and commentate on? I did one for Mean Girls, now I'm doing one for Singles Inferno. I don't know if I should watch Love is Blind drama, because I've seen It's Wild. Like this one lady who says she looked like Megan Fox, but she doesn't look like Megan Fox. She looks more like Adele than Megan Fox, and that is side profile. Anyway, let me know what other shows I should watch and commentate on, and I will see you all in the next one.